So let's talk about Melchizedek. I'll save the Lot part for part 2 and then Genesis 15 for part 2. But we do want to mention Melchizedek because he's an important figure, because he's another Gentile. Right? He's not a Jew, who is somehow a mysterious priest of God. How is there a priest of God in Salem, Jerusalem? He is the priest of God at Canaan's land somehow. There's a righteous priest there. And he's the king of Salem who will bring out bread and wine. Can you obviously not see? This is a type of the Eucharist. And who is Jesus? Jesus is a priest after the order of Melchizedek. Now, in Orthodox theology, let's be clear. I don't know why people get confused about this. This is not Jesus. Melchizedek is not Jesus. He's a type of Jesus. They're not the same person. I don't know why people come up with this. I think the only reason people think this is because it says that he is without genealogy. It just means it's without listed genealogy. It doesn't mean he has no genealogy, right? So Hebrews says that Melchizedek, this mysterious person, has no list of genealogy. It just means that it's not written who he descended from. We don't know. It doesn't mean that he's not a human. And by the way, all the goofy sects and cults, Latter-day people, they try to say, oh, we have the Melchizedekian priesthood. No, you don't. The Orthodox Church is the Melchizedekian priesthood because it's the priesthood of Christ, and it's the priesthood of Christ that descends from the people that Jesus instituted as his successive presbyters, the successors to the apostles, you see. The king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley, and his return from the slaughter of Kedorlaomer, and the kings with him. Now, Melchizedek was the king of Salem. This will later be Jerusalem. So he's a type of Christ, the king of Jerusalem. And he comes out to meet Abraham with bread and wine. And he was the priest of God. He blessed Abraham and said, "Blessed be Abraham, God Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands." So Abraham gave him a tenth of all. So he tithed to Melchizedek. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me your people and keep the Calvary for me the people and keep the Calvary for yourself." But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, "I have raised my hand to God Most High, the creator of heaven and earth, that I will take nothing of yours from a thread of sandal strap, lest you should say that you made Abraham rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men with me, Anar, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion." So Abraham is basically saying to the king of Sodom, you're not going to be able to say that you made me rich. God gave us the victory. You don't get any of the credit for this. But the mysterious figure of Melchizedek, the priest, as we'll see explained in the book of Hebrews, Hebrews 5 and Hebrews 7, he is a type of Christ because he is not a priest of the Levitical order. He's not a descendant of Aaron. As you know, as we'll see as we get into Exodus and Leviticus, the priesthood is only the descendants of Aaron, right? Moses' brother Aaron. And they will become the Levitical priesthood, right? The sons of Levi. But here we have priesthood still existing prior to all that. And some true church still existing amongst Gentiles here. Somehow. We don't know how, but mysteriously. That's why this is a powerful apologetic usage by the New Testament writers to say these are images telling you, in the Old Testament even, about the way that the religion of the true God will go to the Gentiles. Because there were already emblems of this, foreshadowings of this during the Old Testament period, all the way back to Noah, all the way back to Job, all the way back to Melchizedek. Melchizedek is a priest of God, not part of the Levitical priesthood. It's a mystery. We don't know everything about Melchizedek, but we know that it was the case. And we know that the book of Hebrews, so let's look at that before we close up this installment. Now, again, this is a little bit difficult because we haven't, if you're new to a lot of this, if you don't know Genesis or the Bible very well, then you don't know about the Levitical priesthood. You don't know about Leviticus. I just finished rereading Leviticus, by the way. So this is all fresh in my mind. We read Leviticus last week. Now, I'd read Leviticus many times before, but it had been probably 5 years since I read Leviticus. So it was... the thing about the Bible is that every time you go back to it, you will always see new things, right? Because you're imbibing this whole text, and when you go back and you read Genesis or Leviticus, the things that you read in the New Testament maybe a year before will inform your understanding of what you read in the Old Testament. And then when you read the New Testament, what you read 3 years, 2 years, 1 year before from the Old Testament will inform you again on the New Testament. And it's a never-ending sort of process that's always enlightening and informing you. There's no book like this. It's amazing. I mean, the depth of this is just phenomenal. And that's another one of the reasons that we know it's divinely inspired. I mean, there's many reasons, but one reason, one evidence of this, that's an attestation to the inspiration of it, is that there's no way that a bunch of dudes just sort of, came up with the level of depth at work here. And the more that you've studied the scriptures, the more you see that. It's just amazing. If you've read the texts of other world religions, it's not like that at all. I mean, if you've read Bhagavad Gita, or if you've read, these other religious texts, Quran or whatever, it's very different. But we read in Hebrews 5 that not only is the Levitical priesthood and the high priest a type of Christ and his work, but Melchizedek is also an image of Christ and his work. Every priest is taken from among men and appointed for men in the things that pertain to God, that he might offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. For he can have compassion upon those who are ignorant and going astray, since he himself is also subject to weakness. But because of this, he is required for the people and also for himself to offer sacrifices for sins. And no man takes this right upon himself, but is called by God for this, just as Aaron was. So you can't appoint yourself to be a priest or a minister or a presbyter. And this nullifies all the Protestants and all the evangelicals, because they assume to themselves the right to teach and preach and to be offerers of the sacraments. You don't have the right to do that. It has to be according to the succession of those that Christ appointed. So also Christ did not glorify himself to become a high priest, but it was said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." And it was said in another place, "You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek," who in the days of his humanity, when he had offered up prayers and supplications and vehement cries and tears to the Father who was able to save him from death, was heard because of his godly fear. It's talking about Jesus. And even though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things that he suffered. And having been perfected, he became the author of salvation to all who obey him. And he was called by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, of whom we have much to say, and it is hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. For by now you should have been teachers. You need someone again to teach you the basic principles of God. For everyone who partakes of milk is unskilled in the word, and he is a baby. So by the way, this is telling you that you should be teachers. It's not saying everybody has the right to teach, but everybody should be at the level. His audience, he's saying, should not be falling into basic ignorance on the Bible. I guess the writer of Hebrews is a Protestant, because he's saying you should have known the Bible. No, I'm sorry, it's not Protestant to know the Bible. In fact, St. John Chrysostom castigates his congregation constantly for not reading their Bible. There's nothing Protestant about reading the Bible. He says solid food belongs to those who are of full age, but you need baby milk because you don't know theology. I thought we were not supposed to know theology. Oh, no, the Bible says you do need to know theology. Then it goes on to talk about in chapter 7, for this Melchizedek was the king of Salem, and he was the priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tithe, a tenth of all, and he was called the king of righteousness. And he's also called the king of Salem, meaning king of peace, prince of peace, right? Without father, without mother, and without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God, he remains a priest forever continually. It doesn't say he's the Son of God, but made like the Son of God. And it's saying that he doesn't have father, mother, or genealogy listed in the text. It's not saying he's some eternal fourth person of the Godhead, or some, God figure. He's a human being who is a mysterious figure who's a type of Christ. That's all it means. And by the way, the Orthodox iconographic tradition pictures Melchizedek in an icon. So we don't believe that he is Jesus. Consider how great this man was. He's a man to whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of his spoils. And indeed, those who are the sons of Levi, that's the Aaronic priesthood, who receive the priesthood have a commandment to receive tithes from the people according to the law, that is, according from their brethren, though they have come from the loins of Abraham, but whose genealogy is not derived from them, and yet he received tithes from Abraham. He's saying that Abraham's descendants were in his loins, meaning that they were his seed in him, like in potentia, right? They had not been born yet. And if Abraham, from whom all of the Levitical priests descend, tithes to Melchizedek, how great is Melchizedek, you see. Therefore, if there was perfection that could be had through the Levitical priesthood, then why would there need to be another priest to rise according to the order of Melchizedek? But you see, the prophecy from Psalm, depending on whether you use the Septuagint or not, Psalm 109:4, if you have the Orthodox Study Bible. Psalm 2:7. Psalm 2:7. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. That's a prediction of the Messiah. Why would there need to be another priest predicted by David? This is centuries after Abraham. David says, prophesying that the Messiah will be a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. If you could be perfected through the Mosaic Levitical priesthood, why would there need to be a priest according to the order of Melchizedek? That's predicting the Messiah. For if the priesthood being changed, of necessity there is also a change of the law. And that's what Jesus came to do, was to fulfill the office and function of the old ceremonial Levitical administration and to bring in the Melchizedekian administration, namely the church. Now, that doesn't mean that there's nothing in the Levitical administration that's a type of the church. Obviously, all of it is. The high priest, the Day of Atonement, that's a type of Christ. The book of Hebrews says. The book of Hebrews says they both are. The high priest, the Aaronic high priest, as well as the Melchizedekian priesthood, right? It's all pointing to Christ is the point. And that's what Hebrews 7 is arguing about this section of Genesis with Melchizedek. So as I said,